Start the board workshop now. Are we good or should I wait? Oh, you're on YouTube by accident? Right. Great, okay. Just a points to before we get started for anyone in the public. We're gonna give you time to speak at the end of the workshop. Give you 3 minutes, so take notes and whatnot, but we don't want a lot of interruptions. So that's why I'm asking for this. So let's take notes and you can have 3 minutes at the end. Thanks much.
I can just kick us off, Town Planner Garrett Scott. We have on the Zoom call, Art Melito as well as Nora Bland from Cushing Carroll. They are the consultant working on our comprehensive plan update on behalf of the town. So I'll kick it over to either Art or Nora to maybe kick off the presentation that was in the packet. I believe both of y'all are co-hosts, so you can unmute and share screen and all that good stuff.
Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Nora, it seems like we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Still nothing, sorry.
All right, hold on.
I could hear you. Maybe.
I don't say she's muted.
She's unmuted. But...
Yeah, you look unmuted, Nora.
Yeah, I am. Art, you can hear
Garrett.
me?
Yeah, Garrett, can you hear me?
Art, can you say something to see if it's our end or your end?
I could hear everyone. I think it might be on your end.
No.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's right. It was the capitalize,
Get our own audio settings, maybe.
Let's see. Stone.
That's what it's supposed to be. Okay.
Yes, Art.
We did. We can't hear him either. Art, yours says muted. But,
Hello.
oh, now we can hear Art.
Oh, hey.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hey, thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that. Yeah, good afternoon, evening, everybody. Thanks for letting us share a little bit of your time tonight. We're really excited about how the planning process is progressing, and so we'd like to share a little bit of what we've been working on. So for tonight, I'll go through some of the findings from our focus group meetings. I know last time I was with you all, I did findings from the online survey. And so this is just another type of engagement that we did on a number of topics. And then I will let Art walk us through some of the preliminary vision for Clayton Court downtown. And then I'll talk about future land use and some of the designations that we've come up with so far. So just a review of the engagement schedule. We are right here in Board and Commission updates. Our open house, we're looking at the first few weeks of March to have there in town in person. And then from there, more engagement in the summer with a fall potential adoption. So from our focus groups, these were the topics, and we gathered various stakeholders to have some group discussions. For sustainability and resiliency, the key focus areas were preservation and restoration of natural resources, alternative energy and energy efficiency, and multimodal transportation. Arts, history, and culture, continue fundraising and momentum behind the Arts Center. Look to DDA revenues as potential for an arts fund, and then leveraging passenger rail. Downtown development and housing, increase workforce housing by 500 to 700 units by 2027. That's for the whole Grand County Partnership area. Support the business community, attract new industry, build out the vision for downtown Fraser as a mixed-use hub, walkable with greater interaction with the river, and support the short-term rental market that's critical to the tourism economy in town. Community services, provide healthcare locally so residents and visitors don't have to travel outside of the county. Lack of childcare and services for older adults, and then providing more mental and behavioral health services. For Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, maintaining the grant funding for the Trails Alliance, highway fording crossings and trailhead parking, more opportunities for indoor recreation, and micro transit opportunities to connect the train station to destinations. For mobility, last mile connections to the train station, lack of sidewalks in Old Town, safe crossings of Highway 40, expanding the lift service in town, and then managing traffic and decreasing single occupancy vehicle trips on Highway 40. And then finally, community needs and quality of life. Looking for funding opportunities to provide licensing for childcare operators. And then a possible solution to that was looking at what Summit County did with a sales tax as a case study. There's a large opportunity for after-school outdoor-based programs, youth experiences, and nature-based learning opportunities for kids. The library wants to serve more teens and seniors by making improvements to digital resources, hosting groups and clubs, and then increased outdoor space. A bus stop or station at the library would help increase awareness and accessibility, and then continue to collaborate and partner with nonprofit entities in regards to housing, childcare, and services. Okay, I will hand it over to Art if there aren't any questions about kind of what we heard in the focus group meetings. This is probably what everybody's excited to talk about. So Art, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, as a component of a larger comp plan, we're developing a vision plan for the downtown Clayton Court area. I think as many of you know, the purpose of the plan is really to provide an aspirational vision and framework for the future that integrates the desire of the community. It is only conceptual in nature, but it is intended to be a planning tool for discussion that allows the town to be more proactive about its future. So kind of related to that, I just wanted to get into a little bit of analysis, and then we'll kind of jump into kind of the plan itself. So looking at the existing site right up there, Highway 40 and the river, there are a number of key considerations that we looked at when preparing the vision plan. Some of those key ones, circulation, the presence of the floodplain, parcel sizes, which are kind of vary in size in the district, the grade change that kind of goes down to the river, zoning and land use, currently recently developed properties as well as currently planned properties, being sure that we're being ecologically sensitive to the river. And then also looking at user experience, placemaking, and access to parking. I would say the three top ones that kind of came to the top at looking at this were parcel size related to that. There's not a huge amount of room between Highway 40 and the river, and Clayton Court kind of cutting through that space as well. So there's not a lot of depth associated with a lot of the parcels in here. So you could see a couple of those parcels identified in green, some being a little bit smaller, some being a little bit larger. Trying to think of maybe opportunities for potentially larger development that may be able to occur in some of those. I know one of the challenges I think Fraser's faced with, and a lot of other downtowns are as well, is just parking and access. So it might be an opportunity in some of those larger parcels to include some sort of consolidated parking in those areas. Maybe that's subsurface. For the downtown as a whole. Second is kind of that framework and circulation. Trying to provide, thank you, the additional opportunities for connections between the highway and the river. You could see this is kind of that existing framework right now, which there is kind of an easy access point to there, but for many folks that might be new to town or coming through along Highway 40, that's a little bit maybe more challenging to see directly. So one of the main things associated with this plan, that kind of the big move associated with it is really linking the highway, Clayton Court, and the river together through kind of one big move. So if you could go to the next slide there. This is kind of that connection point where at Eisenhower, where there's a future signal planned, creating some sort of green space connection that kind of links through these three areas and provides a bit of a framework for development on each side of it. So that's kind of one of the main drivers, the big move associated with the vision plan. You know, you've got that new connection there and then reinforcing some of the other connections to the north and to the south. So and also building upon that, there's also the connection over to the Safeway. There's a lot of folks kind of visiting that, and it also provides another opportunity for folks to kind of see and experience the Clayton Court and downtown area. So it just provides another linkage and doesn't create the reliance on just kind of that Clayton Court loop that's shown here. So maybe hopping into the plan itself real quick. This is an illustrative plan, kind of thinking about how that might come to fruition, might build out, still very conceptual in nature, but you could see kind of that main pedestrian area going from Eisenhower to the river, thinking about that being maybe some sort of programmed open space. It's a pause point along Highway 40 there where there would be the signals and where folks can kind of take an opportunity to kind of look down there, see some potentially interesting things going down and leading down to the river. Thinking that maybe there could be programs and activities, maybe a little play space that kind of gradually links you all the way down to the river. And maybe that's an opportunity where you might be able to just kind of touch the water, see the river a little bit without necessarily developing anything that's too substantial or disruptive to the river over there. We've included in this plan some of the existing or some of the proposed development. Mainly that's the art center there shown on, I believe that's letter D over there, as well as some of the existing buildings. You could see Kosalig, Strom kind of working on being finalized over there as well. So really trying to focus on bringing activity to the street, to Clayton Court, and also Highway 40. And I think those are some of the key points. Nora, anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, do you want to talk a little about parking?
Yes, thank you. So kind of shown there up along Highway 40, that larger building there was the idea of trying to tuck in maybe a parking deck. There we might have a floor or two floors that kind of tucks into the grade transition there. I think we've got maybe about 8 feet or so. So you would potentially be able to still line much of that ground floor area with retail and still have retail on the front there where Nora was pointing along 40. So it might be create an opportunity to integrate that more district-wide parking approach that I had mentioned into a larger parcel over there. I think there's some other parcels that might lend itself to that as well, being a little bit bigger, but this one was kind of clear and free away from the floodplain, which I think made it stand out.
Then do you want to talk a little bit about this realignment?
Yeah, so we've went through a couple different iterations on this, but right now we're looking at kind of keeping the alignment over to Safeway to meet the existing intersection over there and trying to keep it close to the Holiday Inn. So there might be the potential for some additional development that may occur on the corner right there. Thank you. And then also connecting in with PD Drive as shown on J as an optional connection right there. thinking that that new roadway that links over to Safeway may also be able to provide parallel parking as well.
Yeah, I think we can open it up for discussion and feedback. Unless Garrett, we're missing anything.
No, I think that's a great overview. I appreciate it. And I think maybe before we go too far, I know Trustee Smith actually had a question, and I think our mics weren't working. So go
Yeah.
ahead, Peggy.
Thank you. Well, I kind of, when we briefly went through the focus points, I think that there were some missing focus point areas that I'd
Sure.
like to bring up, which open space, I think there's opportunities for, not necessarily right here in Old Town, but I think there's, when we blow this up to the 3 mile plan, I think that's one piece. Mental health, that was not addressed, and that's another key thing. In schools, we haven't talked about schools anywhere in any of this, so those were kind of things that I noticed were missing. When I look at this plan, it seems like there's a lot of parking and the orientation of the buildings, which I would hope would have taken advantage of the riverscape much more. There used to be a really fun restaurant called Finnegan's that people loved. And they loved it because it was on the river and it faced the river, but this all looks like you're just getting little ends of a building with not much. The other thing that I think we haven't addressed in this is drainage, which I think is a big issue. And I think it's an opportunity around the HTA building to maybe do some kind of creative drainage situation, because that's going to be, we've got to figure out a way to keep all of the storm water out of the Fraser River. And we can't put parking underneath. I mean, you can't go subsurface. You can probably, during some of the grade changes, add parking, but it just seems like there's a tremendous amount of parking and landscaping and not a lot of buildings that, you know, were usable. So those are just
Yeah.
my quick.
Those are great comments. And, you know, Nora and Art, I think if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share the version of the plan that I have up with the comments
Yeah.
from the Planning Commission. And that may help foster some additional discussion by the board. So the comments here in red were things identified by the Planning Commission last week that I'll just speak to. One comment was to maybe depict this intersection as showing a slightly more realistic pavement treatment here at Eisenhower and 40. You know, again, this is a conceptual plan. I think the intent is just to depict that the town would like for this intersection to be a true gateway and entrance and provide that connection from Highway 40 to the river through this kind of plaza open space area. You know, so I think the intent is just to show some sort of enhanced, you know, pavement treatments, whether that's pavers or like painted pavement markings at that intersection. Another comment was that CDOT's conceptual plans for Highway 40 show relocating the existing crosswalk right by Gordonson Station to be aligned with Clayton Avenue and this road right here. Another comment that was provided was to kind of expand the scope of this concept plan and depict the entire area that's zoned Riverwalk in the town. I think one reason why that wasn't initially included in the scope of this concept plan is because much of those areas, you know, between Highway 40 and the railroad, have existing homes and structures and development. They are zoned Riverwalk. They can certainly become much more dense. It's kind of the vision for them to redevelop, whether with infill or wholesale redevelopment of lots kind of over time. But I think we didn't want to depict just, you know, a complete kind of bulldozing of existing areas. But a lot of those east-west streets between Highway 40 and the railroad have 60 feet of right-of-way. They can accommodate the kind of more urban walkable, wide sidewalks with parallel parking, street scape treatments that we are currently implementing on Clayton Court. And then the areas in between, again, are opportunities for, increased density through redevelopment and infill and things like that. And then another comment that was provided by the Planning Commission was to, maybe look closely at this proposed realignment of Wapiti Drive, keep it north of the Fraser River. That would reduce a bridge crossing of the Fraser. It could tie into 804, kind of right next to the existing Winter Park Ranch Water and Sanitation Building, and that would help open up additional space here. So appreciate the comments from Trustee Smith, showing more riverfront activation and less parking along the river in this concept plan. But again, just want to open it up to other trustees for their thoughts and input. So
Note L has caught my attention. Is there what's the thought process there? What's going on?
yeah, so I think the intention behind that is this is currently a gated emergency access from where Dock Susie meets Eastham, right by the Sun River Townhomes. The intention is to work with the Sun River HOA to essentially remove that gate, make that a through access road, just to provide additional north-south routes for vehicles that wouldn't need Highway 40. Certainly wouldn't expect it to be, a major thoroughfare for large volumes of traffic, but increase that connectivity so that, say folks to the north of Eastham don't have to turn onto Highway 40.
Activity from County Road 8 to
Yeah.
Safeway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One other note about the CDOT plan, I think they are looking at moving Byers Ave to the other side of the bank so that it becomes a four-way at Clayton Avenue and Highway 40.
No, go straight through.
No, it goes straight through to Dock Susie then, and so connect that way. So Byers Ave will shift to the south side of the bank so that so Clayton Avenue goes straight across 40. So it's a four-way. I mean, I don't think they wouldn't signalize it or anything, but yeah, so the connectivity from one side of 40 to the other is a little better.
Streets that match up.
Yeah, can you believe that?
No. Is that why we do conflict?
I thought the Future Arts Center was gonna be along the river. You have it here, the Mural Park area.
So
Yeah.
this, I guess just to clarify, this is adjacent to the Fraser River on the lot that was donated to Fraser Valley Arts by the town last year. The Mural Park lot is like right where my cursor is down here.
So the distillery is not in the right spot then.
So I guess to clarify, this is the barrel storage room for the distillery right
Oh.
here. But that's a good comment.
Maybe just one quick comment on relating to retail on the riverfront there. I would say that's definitely a desire in my mind, and hopefully, a lot of that common space that's kind of going through that area would be retail and such, and hopefully some of those corners of those buildings would be able to accommodate that as well, was the hope. I know one challenge a little bit is just the depth from Clayton Court to the river, and needing to accommodate ground floor retail on Clayton Court as well, with some parking. So that was a little bit of a challenge of trying to accommodate parking and include retail, I think, on several frontages. But appreciate the comment, and I think that's the desire.
I would just say, work with out west investments just so that the architecture on Clayton Court is a little more what they envision as well.
Is there a specific area you're thinking of?
Well, they're doing a phase one, close to where G is, and that building is actually pretty close to what they're doing. The one to the south of it though is going to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And there's great
Okay.
change opportunities at that
Mhm.
point for underground parking.
Right.
And Brian, I'll just comment that they presented this to the DDA as well, and Greg Beckler and Kevin were a part of that conversation. So they have seen this.
Yeah. They were probably just thinking this is and yeah, total concept vision. So they probably didn't feel the need to speak up.
One of the things we've been excited about was heated sidewalks and, more hard surface, hard line to retail to the street. And I don't think that this, with all the landscaping, really accomplishes it.
The river would be the focal point of the river walk. It doesn't really seem like that to me.
Yeah, it's like the focal point is that walkway now,
Mm.
the path.
Which areas, I guess, in terms of landscape, are you thinking
Pretty much all of
might
them.
not be needed?
Well, it seems all the street fronts, this is supposed to be a pedestrian kind of shopping area. I don't see sidewalks anywhere along Clayton Court, where I imagine those are all storefronts.
Yeah, that's all intended, I guess, in kind of graphic sense of
Over
here, that
here
would all be
it's- Yeah, grass and
side,
trees. Okay.
that would all be sidewalk.
Right, yeah,
Highway side, all, yeah.
do you think the quantity of landscaping depicted along Clayton Court is probably more than is anticipated to be provided unless developers provide trees along their own property frontage? We can't fit parallel parking and our 8-foot wide sidewalks within the planned 60 feet right of way. But again, it's a concept plan, but I do agree that maybe showing less landscaping kind of along the street would better match what is likely to be the ultimate outcome. Any other thoughts or comments, questions on this?
There's a lot more to this comprehensive plan than just what we've seen today. So
Yeah.
for anybody looking at it,
couple
yeah,
streets.
this is one portion of the overall comprehensive plan.
So we looked the other day at Planning Commission. Are we gonna get that opportunity tonight, or is it just we're focusing on?
No, we will look at the future land use maps as well. So I know we're already at half an hour, so I'll turn it back over to Nora.
Great. Thanks everyone for your input. Hopefully you're seeing my screen again. So really this is, I'm sure many of you are familiar with what future land use is, but this is a public meeting, so I just want to get us all on the same page. What future land use is it's a tool to illustrate the community's vision for growth, guidance for decision makers like yourselves, informed by the public history and landowners, and it is amendable. What it's not is regulatory, it's not zoning, although it can help inform updates to the zoning ordinance. It's not a development plan, and it's also not new. You know that your 2010 comprehensive plan does have a future land use map. Some of the I guess this is a little bit of a repeat, but it's really just a geographic representation of the desired future use of lands in Fraser and within the 3 mile area. It forms the basis for decision making when it comes to land use, um, shows the desired locations and patterns of growth, and it can be used by developers to understand how the community wants to change over time, property owners who may be interested in rezoning or redeveloping our property, and then staff and leadership to understand a proposed project and how it aligns with the community's vision. So a piece of the future land use planning process is future land use designations. And so this is a future land use designation table from a comprehensive plan we did for the town of Carbondale. It just generally articulates the character of future land uses that are identified on the map. They can be on a spectrum of more prescriptive to more open to interpretation. And there is an option to include envisioned density or intensity within a range. So the considerations that went into this first draft of the future land use map were community input, infrastructure availability and capacity, transportation infrastructure, natural constraints like floodplain slope, sensitive lands, planned and permitted development projects right now, special districts like the GDA, the 2010 future land use map, zoning, projected growth, housing need, and economic development considerations. So the designations we're working with as of right now are kind of low, medium, and high density residential. We haven't gotten to the point of assigning densities to these yet, but if that's something that's desired by the board, that's great. That's great information for us to discuss tonight. But really low density thinking like Winter Park Ranch, medium density, more of that Ptarmigan, and then higher density like an Elk Creek condos. For commercial designations, we have kind of just straight commercial like Murdoch's, more mixed use, kind of like the vision for Clayton Court. And then this kind of mixed use light industrial flex. The intent here is to provide for commerce and also provide for jobs and maybe some higher paying jobs, and then also office space within the town. And then these are all kind of the lower intensity uses: forest and agriculture, parks and open space, public and civic uses, conservation easements that exist already. We didn't designate anything with a conservation easement that didn't already exist. Water bodies and a buffer on those water bodies, and then some areas that we haven't quite figured out yet that can be up for discussion. Did I miss a slide? Oh, yeah. Here, we can go back to the future land use map. Actually, Garrett, did you have those pulled up that you wanted to zoom in and out of?
I do, so I'll go ahead
Okay.
and share them.
Great.
And again, these are the same maps that the Planning Commission reviewed last week. We'll start with the future land use map for land that's already inside of the town of Fraser boundaries. These comments were ones that were provided by the Planning Commission. Some of them kind of relate more to some additional maps that will be forthcoming as part of this comprehensive plan process related to transportation improvements, but some good comments that I just wanted to incorporate and reflect here show Eisenhower being extended and connecting to the Fraser Valley Parkway, show an extension of Wapiti Drive so that it connects to Quail. Also, this parcel map doesn't reflect the St. Louis Landing plat that's reflective of the current development there. Some other comments in Grand Park to update the West Mountain area more broadly to actually match the planning area boundaries from the 2005 PDD. These shapes just came from something that was internal to the town's records, I believe, to kind of approximate those boundaries, but we do have better data to match them more closely. And as well as right in here, West Mountain Filing 1, which is already approved. Just depicting that on the future land use map more accurately. Just the same as other areas in Grand Park that have been approved but not yet constructed, such as the Alpenglow condos being depicted as high density residential and phase 2 of Elk Creek condos as well. So if there's any specific areas of town that any trustees would like a closer look at, I'm happy to zoom in there. Really, what this future land use reflects pretty much across the board is current zoning. So areas that are zoned Riverwalk, for example, are depicted as mixed use. Areas of kind of Old Town are a mix of low, medium, and high density residential. Areas like the elementary school, the library, town hall are all public uses, etc. So
I think one of the things that we talked about at Planning Commission last week was the area around the wastewater treatment plant. It's showing up as light industrial, I guess, which
It's probably the next map, yeah.
yeah, I can zoom over there. It's depicted as public. This is the wastewater treatment plant right here.
but to me, it's an opportunity for a conservation easement to match what's across the street and keep as much open space as we can along the valley floor. And I think with the new Headwater Trail or Headwaters Land Trust has been acquired by the Colorado Land Trust, and they just bought that easement in Granby. I think that's a real opportunity that we need to really work on, because when that's gone, it's gone, and it's a beautiful piece of property, and I'd hate to see it with a bunch of warehouses.
Yeah, and that was a comment that we discussed at the Planning Commission, especially with regards to kind of the overall Jones Ranch area. Right now, it's more or less all depicted as mixed use. I think really showing this with a bit more granularity is appropriate. The intention is that kind of closer to County Road 8, it could be higher density and mixed use to match, St. Louis Landing and the Riverwalk district to the south. But as you go towards the north, lower density, more open space, certainly along the Fraser River, more open space, or even a planned conservation easement, open space buffer around the wastewater treatment plant, as well as accounting for, future expansions to the wastewater treatment plant. So all good comments. This might be the more interesting map to look at some of the areas outside of town. So if there's any specific areas that the trustees would like to discuss or have questions on.
When you say public, you mean like public buildings or public, not necessarily, like parks are different, right?
Correct. Yeah. So public is separate from parks and open space. Public is more like governmental. So again, schools, library, town hall, the hospital, fire department, etc.
I mean, I'd like to see space reserved north of where the elementary school is currently in the Pollyard area for a potential middle school, high school.
Sure.
And, that's a nice space. But it's probably not big enough when you consider all of you have to have a football field and a soccer field and
A lot of it could be mixed with, or could be used with the rec right on County Road 5.
I think you'd have to really work that out, because that's pretty heavily used after school. And for you to come in and say, oh, we're going to put a football field here, and I'm not sure that'd go over real well.
Could be a good conversation with Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much expansion capacity there is over there. But if there is, then maybe there's an opportunity. But if we've used that to the maximum, I don't know. I don't know how much there is.
I mean, the Pollyard is wide open.
But I don't know how many acres is the Pollyard.
Just Jones. 8, no person.
8?
All things.
That's
But a junior high.
mhm.
Also Pollyard and then the surrounding areas up to County Road 5.
That's pretty heavily wetlands, isn't it?
Mm-mm.
Once you get west of the Pollyard.
Everything,
It'd have to be mapped. I'm sure.
yeah. I mean, everything north, the whole Pollyard is isn't wetlands. Everything to County Road 5 would be fine.
So this kind of reflects the intention of the general area.
But that's something we need to think about, you know, for sure, where we can put a school, two schools probably. And,
Is the school district?
So
Having
this
these
is all
conversations?
contingent on us
Because I would
annexing
imagine they're the
the
ones
land,
that
right?
build the schools.
We have no control over it now
We
unless
talked
it's
about
annexed.
interest there.
Yeah, I'd say that's accurate. And with Adam, your comment about the school district, I mean, we certainly reached out to them to be included with the focus group discussions. I believe they didn't get back to us, right, Nora?
Correct, yeah.
Because I would imagine they should be leading a school discussion.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, certainly before this plan is adopted and finalized, we will still attempt to have a dialogue with the school district on these items. So that we're just not
Yeah, then we include
making
that in
recommendations in a vacuum.
annexation discussions and stuff
Right.
like that. But
Yeah.
they should be determining their own future.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to members of the school board and they're certainly open to the land acquisition piece of it. I think they're still of the mind that there's not enough population for another middle school and high school, but like Peggy said, once the land is gone, it's gone. So,
Again, I think that's their responsibility.
Right.
For us to go buy land in anticipation that the school district may need it in the future. I'm not there.
well, maybe they buy it,
Yeah. That's,
but
yeah.
there's going to be some turnover on the school board because of Ed becoming county
Mhm.
commissioner. So,
No, no, I think it's imperative to have them leading this discussion.
Yeah.
And we need to be a player. But
So that purple TBD area north before Barfour Road. I know some of that is like ranch or private property, and then you get into Denver Water Board, I believe.
Yeah, so Nora, correct me or clarify. I believe all of this TBD property kind of to the west is Denver Water Board property.
Everything that's shown in purple right under your cursor, and yep, actually, I think all of that is Denver Water. Everything in purple to the west is owned by Denver Water, and really why we're still a little bit TBD on it is, it is within the 3 mile area, so if leadership does decide that we want to have a plan for that area, I would encourage you to do so. But really, a big consideration is the parkway, and if what type of business that could generate, and just traffic going that way to avoid Highway 40. Likely Denver Water will sell some of their property in coming years, particularly when that parkway is built. And so understanding better, as a community, really thinking forward and trying to have a plan in place so that you're not having to do more reactive planning.
So some history on that Denver Water Board property. That conservation easement along the highway was created, and the county holds it so that it's called the Stadelman easement, and the Denver Water property is going to be, it is stripped of all its water rights. So it would come without any water if we were to bring it in. It is downhill of our treatment plant. So that would require pumping, which is a totally different situation than we have anywhere in our system today. And I believe, yeah, the county agreed to higher densities on that property in exchange for keeping the valley floor open. But yeah, I mean, that's a very large property, no water, and it would be expensive to serve.
yeah. Good info. Anything else standing out?
100 years from now, we'll want that.
Clark's Airport.
Mayor, we could try to schedule a conversation with the rec district and the school board and see if we can get some alignment there, some interest and get the right people in the right room for the conversation.
I think that's a good idea.
And we can take that information to any potential landowner or existing or new.
Okay. Is there more?
I think if we're done at the future land use maps, we can move on. I think just one more slide, right, Nora?
Yes.
Perfect.
I will pull that up. So just making you aware of what our next steps are. We will present a lot of this information to the public for feedback at our first open house. Like I said, we're looking at the first few weeks of March for that, and then we'll take that input and find and put it into kind of a draft plan at the end of the summer, and then we'll be looking to present some draft recommendations in tentatively in March, goals, policies, and action items, and then yeah, just really looking forward to that open house in March and hoping that you all can help us spread the word about it once we have a finalized date and location and time. And thank you all so much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Nora. Does anyone from the public want to approach the mic for 3 minutes? Anybody online? Okay. We will adjourn the workshop here and rejoin the board and start the board meeting at 6.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks, Art.
Thanks,
Thank you,
folks.
guys.
Take care.
No, I think we use it as a survey. So I'm getting patient.